Hello, welcome to today's tutorial. The last tutorial we actually looked at hello world, a simple hello world, and using the notification. Um, it's using the notify shape, which we have here. So it's taking a little bit time to load. Let's just go through. Okay, yeah. So we just had a start shape, we had a notify shape, and we had a stop shape. So they want to make things more interesting, and you actually use a HTTP request. So what we'll be trying to do is we'll be trying to make a post call today. We're trying to make a post call and actually send data into into the Boomi cloud. So it's quite interesting because it's actually very easy to set up. It's very easy to set up. So that's what I'm going to be because if you haven't actually set up your atoms, I think you need to go watch the second tutorial in this series. So I'm just going to create a new process, and I'm going to show you how to set up a listener, and we'll proceed from there. So I'm just going to click on new process. I'm using this folder, so I'm just going to call this a hello world. But now I'm calling it HTTP because it's access. I'm going to be sending hello world a name from the cloud. So basically, what do I want to do here? Like I explained this before, connectors to different applications. But this time around, we're actually going to be using a connector, but we are going to be using um, web services server. So this allows us to be able to listen to connections, to listen to calls, to listen to posts or get requests. So I'll just proceed and click on the action is always listen by default. So I'll just say listen, and I'm going to set up an operation here. So this operation is going to be you need to pay attention to this. So I'm going to click on plus because I don't have any connection at the moment, operation at the moment. So this operation just helps to define what type of data would what's the structure of the data, what's the structure of the data. Also it's actually talking about what will be the URL. So basically on this operation we are trying to define a URL, and we're trying to define a URL, and afterwards we are just trying to define a profile. So I'm just going to click on operation, a new operation. So I'm just going to call this hello world HTTP. So it is going to be a get. I would advise you to use a get, but an object name you should just put. If you put an object name, it helps change. It gives you a unique URL. So I'm just going to use hello get hello. So what it means is my URL path will be this get hello. So now in this place, I'm supposed to choose an input type. What kind of data am I sending into the server? I'm going to be sending a JSON object. I'm going to be sending a JSON object. When I choose on JSON object, it tells me what is the profile. So I'm going to create a new profile. Later, I'll show you how to actually define profiles, to import profiles. But we'll just be creating a simple profile that has only one value called um, it has only one value called name. So we'll just click on I'll create my profile manually. Yes. So when I click on this root element, it tells me, okay, this root element is it a simple element or what? So basically, because it's a JSON array, it's an object. Yes. Inside the object, I want to create um inside the object, I can create a new element inside the object, and I'm going to call this name. Yeah. So I'm just going to rename this. I like renaming my profile so that it's easy to read. So I'm just going to use hello name. I'm just going to use close and save. So automatically it comes up here. So then the output type, we need to define the output type. The output type should be I'm going to just make it simple, a single data, and it should be plain text. You can actually use a JSON or whatever you want, but I'm just going to make it a plain text. And that's it here. I'll save, I'll close this. Then the next thing I want to do is I need to have him. So because it's so okay, on this page you always have to when you're working, you whenever it's a listing action, Boomi recommends you to actually disable some extra functionalities to improve performance. So basically, except you, if you want to actually leverage on some of these features, you actually have to use the API management console rather than building it as a process. You need to build it as an API. So basically, I'm just going to disable captured run dates. So these are just extra informations, extra you might want to capture about when your API was called or your process was called. But in this process, we don't need it. So I'm just going to click on make the recommended changes for me. So it means it doesn't capture the run dates, and also there's some interesting features that it doesn't capture because for at this point in time, we're not trying to capture those. However, on a production system, you might want to capture that, and you can actually use a when you're creating a new component, use create API. So I'll just click on OK. Then the next thing I want to do is to create a. So normally, like in the last session, we used notify. Yeah, but if we use notify, it's something that you'll be only you that will be visible within when you actually you execute here and you debug. So during your debug session on your log, you'll be able to see what the result of a notified session. But however, the way whenever we call a listener, we can't just test it and debug it like that. We'll see that because when we are using a listener, we can't just click on test, it won't work. So we are going to do what we use what we call message. We'll just say I'm just going to show what it does. We are just going to say okay, we are going to use a message now. So in the message, what do I want to put in the message? I want to put in the value of the value from the profile that I created earlier on. So I'm going to click on this. So so you remember, like I said, it's a profile from the profile like we created earlier on. It was a JSON profile we created. So we choose the profile we created was hello name. And what is the elements that we want to actually bring out back to the user is name. So we click on OK. So basically, what do we want to return back to the user? I want to say hello. I want to return the person's name back. So as you can see here, this is 1. If you create a new element, it will be 2, 3, 4. So all you just need to do is to make hello and you put in curly braces 1. So I'm just going to do that. And that's fine. I'm just going to create message. Okay. Then now, like in the previous scenario, I showed you we use the stop. We use the stop shape. However, in this one, because we are working with a listener, you want to return something back to the user. Once you return something back to the user, the stop wouldn't be effective. It won't be useful. So we have to use a return message. So return, what the return does, it's it sends a message back to the source system. A return document. Just going to put this and just say there's no configuration to be done here. I'll just give it a name. So I'm just going to link everything up and I'm just arrange. I'll save. Okay. Yeah. So now notice, like if I try and click on test, it tells you Boomi doesn't actually support direct testing of listener. So basically, we cannot actually test a listener on and use the debug tool. So what we need to do is to be able to actually create this as a package component, deploy this, and we'll actually be able to use Postman to test this service. So we have created this. We are going to create a package component now. I click on create package components. So basically, you don't need to change any settings here. You just click on add details. So basically you can actually give your version if you're working in a real system. So I'll just give maybe this my version 0.01. You can actually add notes for packages. Yeah, I'm going to deploy this. So it asks me which environment I want to deploy this. I'm using my development environment. We have production environments, but like for this, I'm using my development environments. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything, but it's just the URL endpoint changes. So I'm going to click on next, and I'm just going to click on review. Everything seems okay to me. I'll click on deploy. Okay, that deployment is successful. You can actually click on view deployment or you close. I'm just going to close this. If at any point in time you want to see the things you have deployed, you can come to the deploy tab, use the deployments, and you'll be able to see your deployed resources. So now let's be able to be able to see the URL we are going to call. So I'm just going to open a new. It's going to be a post call because we are sending in data. So to be able to see, we want to be able to determine the URL we would be calling this API on. I click on manage, add some management. Okay, I click on my environment and my atom. Now when I click on shared web server, it tells me the the URL I'm supposed to be listening to. I should be actually I can actually send my data from. So I'm just going to copy this and put it in my postman for a start. So this is the base URL. However, there should be another set of URL. But on this page, I want to do something else. I want to, because here you actually have to. There must be a user, and there must be a user, and there must be a password. So I'm just going to click on. I'm going to use this user, and I'm going to click create generate a token. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put it in Postman under authorization. I'm using a basic type of authorization. The password is this, and the user is this. You can just copy this. So basically, you can actually have over 200. So one thing on so just to come when you do this, you actually need to save on this page. If not, it gives you an error later on. So you actually need to click on the save and actually get this pop up. So I'm just going to go back to the build tab. So we have gotten. I'm coming back to my process. Yeah, that we just built. So like I said earlier, this is the base URL, but we want to get the actual URL part for this particular listener because we can actually have different listeners deployed. To be able to get the sub URL, I click the start shape. I click on the I try to edit it. I copy this URL. So basically, I'm using a ws slash simple slash get hello. So now notice that I'm not. It's you can't actually modify this. It's a combination of the operation type you choose and the object name. So it joined it and actually puts it in here. Get hello. So basically, sub URL part would be this ws slash simple slash. So it's always ws slash ws simple is always the prefix. It doesn't change. What changes is always the object the last value, which is a function of the object name and the operation type. So I'm just going to put this in my postman. Yes. Okay. Make sure you don't have two. Yeah. Then I need to go and actually I need to go to the body and actually go send. If you're using a particular tool or you're writing a program, you can actually write it. But to be able to test this scenario, we're using Postman. So I'm just going to create a JSON object. Yes, yeah, and my object we are sending in name like we defined in the profile. And for this scenario, we'll be using John Doe. and we are going to actually send this and actually see the result. And let's do that right away. Okay, so as you can see, it responded, "Hello, John Doe." So basically, what happened was we have been able to call this listener. It listened to us. It used the message to help us process the message shape to help us process it. And this return, actually what it does is actually sends it back to the source. So that's the idea of this is a simple HTTP request. Later on, we're actually working with um, more complex JSON, transforming JSON to an XML. That will be the next tutorial. See how we can actually transform a JSON to an XML profile. We'll send in a JSON using HTTP, and I will send out an XML. So thank you for this tutorial. Yeah, feel free to ask questions, comments, and get back to us. Thank you.